This 2026 Masters Update live from Augusta is brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This music, I
like
love it.
sand through the hourglass.
It has definitely got like a soap opera vibe to it. But you know what? Augusta's kind of like a dramatic soap opera, you know? Like the sudden twist at the end, you know? Hole number 18 is your twin sister. This kind of music doesn't necessarily give off the Masters vibe, but I got what you were going for.
Well, legally, we can't play.
I get it.
And we don't have the voice of
get
Jim
it.
Nance. So
No.
we're doing the best we can here.
No, I know.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
So here's the deal. If you want to get the genuine, actual, like, people who know what they're talking about, that we aren't short of.
No.
Brian Taylor,
We
Bob
got the
Casper.
best.
Brian Taylor, Bob Casper, they're both, of course, they host Real Golf Radio. They've been doing it for, I think BT joins us right now from Augusta. BT, I think it was 18 years that the show's been going, and I think that it made it to basically you guys are almost in, like, I know that Bob's in like the 3-decade club of going to Augusta, but I think you're approaching maybe into the 20-25 range. Where are you at with that on the career?
Yeah, you're close. 27 years on the show and 25 years at Augusta. Yeah.
Look at that.
Wow.
It's a silver anniversary for you at the. Do they let you take something home from like Butler's cabin or anything like that after?
Oh yeah. They give you a replica clubhouse trophy to take home for that. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about how I'm watching today the semi-dramatic, whatever drama we can make out of Tom Ridley's comments about the rollback of the golf ball. I do love that he's like, hey, all you other people who are out there in golf, like, settle down. This is not going to affect you. You know, that 18 handicap guy who's all, I usually hit at 310, but you know about the rollback. Like, it's way worse for me. What is the implication of talking about the, kind of making these drives a little less, for guys like Bryson DeChambeau who hit at 360 every time, it seems like, what's the implication across like all of golf to have this rollback?
It's a really good conversation and a topic that's been discussed for, what are we going on, several years now. The assurance that the average recreational golfer is not going to see any effect of this is big, right? Because I think that's the challenge with everything that as this has been coming along is, look, the game is at its all-time high in popularity. It's already extremely difficult. And so we're going to take something that doesn't seem broken and try to fix it to the potential detriment of the momentum that the game has, right? That has been the concern. And then you got this whole idea, well, maybe there's going to be some bifurcation where the tour guys are going to play a different ball than everybody else. And what are the impacts on that, from a manufacturer standpoint? And anyway, the idea is that I guess this is going to, at the highest clubs, the swing speeds and, highest level of play, it's going to draw it back. Now, on paper, that sounds great. Here's the conversation I had under the tree today behind the clubhouse with a golf industry leader who told me, look, the bottom line is this is going to probably knock off 4 or 5 yards from the best players. And he said, by the way, they're going to set the parameters, and we're built, this is his quote, we're built to beat them. Our goal as a company is to continue to innovate, to continue to grow, to continue to provide better technology, better performance. They can't just stop. A lot of these are publicly traded companies, and they are invested, well, not only whether it's a public or private investors, they're beholden to try to continue to innovate and get better. And we talked about the driver. When the USGA came out with the COR definition back in the early 2000s, the trampoline effect off the face of the driver, I remember sitting in one of these meetings. And they literally said, okay, well, this is what the USGA said. And I'm thinking, well, drivers are never going to get longer. And then they sat and explained engineer-wise how they were able to change within the boundaries that the USGA gave them, how they were able to change spin rates and launch angles and all of these different properties to be able to achieve more distance within the parameters of legality or conformity. Mm-hmm. And so basically it's a long-winded answer to say, look, it's great. Let's try to roll Bryson back so that he's not hitting 9-iron for drivers, in the future and that type of thing. That said, these companies are going to continue to do what they do, and I think it's a really tough genie to put back in the bottle.
You mentioned Bryson DeChambeau. I mean, last year was about Rory, and he made that happen and got the monkey off his back. How about Bryson DeChambeau this year? How big would this be, and is this a moment for him to get finally that green jacket and I guess kind of put himself in a place amongst the best golfers of all time?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know that he needs it like Rory needed it. This is a discussion we had with Jake and Ben earlier, and Ben asked me that question, and I thought it was really well stated. But, I don't know that there's like a guy that really has to have it, other than maybe Justin Rose. He's sort of running out of father time, if you will. But when you look at Bryson, he's got the 2 U.S. Opens. He's wildly popular. Even today, out at the par 3 contest, Kevin Hart was his caddy, and it was a zoo out there. I mean, it was just like, he knows it. He's putting on a show, and Bryson really has the ability to be kind of the Arnold Palmer of this generation, right? I mean, he's a showman. He's, everybody loves him, and he's all about, he waved. I mean, the waving is like old school. Like, he's waving to the crowds like he's, he's like in a parade kind of thing, right? And then you see other golfers, they're out here, the best players in the world, they'll acknowledge the gal, but he's just like literally standing and posing and waving like, I see you, I want you to know that I see you, and I see that you see me. And it's, again, I'm not being critical, it just is what it is. It's a different level of kind of popularity that Bryson has. So, from an opportunity standpoint, I would say of all the years, this one seems to be wide open. I mean, I think you could see a Justin Rose, challenge a Jack Nicklaus, age win. This is the 40th anniversary of Nicklaus winning at 46 years old in 1986. You could, Fuzzy Zeller passed away. He was the last first-timer in 1979, to win. I really think the gamut is open this year. It doesn't seem to be, just like one person's. Like last year was all about Rory. Even the year before it was, a little bit about Jon Rahm, but pretty much about Scotty Scheffler. And so I just think that, there's a lot of questions and no one defined person that you'd say this is his master. And even, last year, even if you weren't a Rory fan, you sort of didn't want to – it's like watching a perfect game. You really didn't want the guy to come in and wreck it at the end because you did sort of want to see history, play out in front of you. And then that's what happened. And so I think there's an opportunity for anybody. And Bryson is just – he's the second, highest favored, player, this betting favorite player this week.
How did Bryson go from a villain to the most popular guy on the tour? Now he's on Live, right? So it's like, how did he make that transition?
He's a social media man. That's it, right?
Yeah, the most popular guy not on the tour, right?
I guess, I corrected myself there.
Yeah. It's a really good question. He came out and sort of rubbed everybody wrong with this sort of scientist, approach to the game and trying to over-explain everything. And, it just was a kind of a smug, a little bit of a, off-putting sort of approach. And somewhere along the line, he just decided, hey, I'm going like Mr. Popular social media guy, and started making just crazy videos. And look, I'm 52 years old. I feel like a dinosaur, when you start looking at these YouTubers and things like that. But there's something that there is an audience there that is different than any of the other media audiences we've seen throughout history. And Bryson's tapped into that, and it's just made him uber popular.
I was watching – I know when Brooks Koepka did the whole, switch over from the Live Tour, and then shortly thereafter it was Patrick Reed who joined him. Has there been more of that momentum of, like, guys who kind of feel like they got to the Live Tour and then went, I like the money, but I'm not having a lot of fun golfing right now, or the competitiveness isn't there what the PGA Tour has? And we haven't had this, Live versus PGA talk in a long time, but it's more interesting about the idea of guys going – I'm coming back again, and how good that is for the game to kind of bring some of these bigger names back. Former champions, Brooks Koepka, Patrick Reed, these are guys who, obviously are important to Augusta itself as former winners. But what does it mean for the sport overall that you're seeing some big names start to switch over, and we're going to see more of that?
It's interesting. It'll be, I guess, remains to be seen. We aren't hearing the fighting and the talk of who's better or what tour should you go to, or But what's interesting is in both Brooks' case and in Patrick Reed's case, when they came, when they left Live, they had kind of the same answers or reasonings for coming back to the PGA Tour that they used to leave the PGA Tour. And I thought that was interesting. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to be able to control my schedule. I want, they didn't use the grow the game one like they did originally with going to Live, but I think the narratives are very similar. So that's a hard one to explain. It's almost like, well, look, it's like media coaching 101. Like, here's what you say to justify your decision, and then people will like it, or they're more apt to like it, perhaps. But I think there's a couple of things. John Rahm, I don't think he's happy over there. He doesn't seem happy over there. He says the right things, but you watch him. I think he has a hard time putting on that front. I think he made the decision to take that money in the 11th hour when he felt like he was going to miss an opportunity for a cash grab, and that the whole thing he'd be all back under the PGA Tour within months anyway. So I think that's what he was, in my opinion, that's what he was sold. And I think he's been a little disappointed that it's been played out as long as it is, and he's still sort of on the outside looking in. He's got way too much talent to be not competing against the best players in the world week in, week out. I think it's going to be big, but his contract, I think, is for another couple of years. Bryson is due this year. Like, there's negotiations going on right now, and that is going to have a massive impact, and, there's still, I think, rights issues to be discussed as far as what Bryson can use and what belongs to the PGA Tour. That's the stuff that Phil used to kind of, make the break in the first place. And so we have Brian Rolap, and it's the new direction of the PGA Tour, and it's a Tour Enterprises rather than the charitable organization it was in the past. So there's some changes there that, and Rolap coming from the NFL. I'm just anxious to see how that all plays out, but I would have to think that, Bryson's decision and which way he goes, in this next contract, whether it's back to the PGA Tour or continuing with Live, is going to have a lot to do with the momentum of the rest of the players.
If Scotty Scheffler wins a third Masters before he turns 30 this year, where would that place him historically?
Well, I mean, look, he's already doing things that are historic, but here's three names: Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Tiger Woods. They all three picked up their third green jacket in their 8th attempt, and Scheffler's trying to do it in his 7th. So, wow. I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, that's one of the things I love about Augusta is you can compare today's players with the best players throughout history on the same golf course in the same event. So I absolutely love that, and that would be huge. The other numbers thing with Scotty is he won in 22, he won in 24. So here we go. The next odd year, is he going to just make it a three-peat in the evens? I mean, another even year. So finished 4th last year. He's had 2 wins in 5 starts, and then he finished 4th. So basically, you've got those 3 top 4 finishes in half of his start. He's just, the guy knows what he's doing, and he's had a couple weeks off, with the new baby. He blitzed the field at the Amex in his first event, and then battled some of those first round starts that he had there in Phoenix, and can't remember what the next one was, but he struggled a little bit to open up, with a good round, and yet here he is with I think his worst finish is top 25. So for being the number 1 player in the world and everything that he's accomplished over the last couple of years, he's definitely coming in a little under the radar, more so than you would have expected. But yeah, it would be huge. I don't know where it places him all time, golf history, but he's already knocking on the door of doing things that the greats have done early in his career.
Brian Taylor, of course, Real Golf Radio. You can hear him and Bob Casper every Saturday, and these are, of course, even more special shows this time of year. Before we get you out here, BT, I just want to know if there are any changes to the actual course itself that people are talking about, or if there's been, every once in a while, it's a tradition unlike any other, but sometimes they go, hey, let's make it a little bit more difficult over here. Are there any kind of changes that the players are seeing or that the course has gone through?
Yeah, they lengthened 17 just slightly, but other than that, it's any other changes are subtle, and they really don't announce those. The players have even acknowledged that. You'll be like, hey, did the green always in this little part? Was it always like this? And so there have been none other official changes announced. What I think is going to be very interesting this year is it's been cool. And it's been windy out here, and it's been relatively low humidity. We're talking like in the 30% range, right, which is not normal for, the South. And so I don't remember – and we had a little bit of rain on Sunday, and that's it. And so typically you get rain in the forecast where it'll drop. And, we know they have the sub-air systems and all of those kind of things. However, I would expect that they can dial this one up, and they might take the opportunity to do that, where you'll see a little bit firmer and faster, if you can imagine, Augusta National than what we've seen, in recent history, where they seem to have a little bit of rain that keeps things a little softer. So look for that. I mean, we saw that with Zach Johnson, and I think, I should have this in front of me, but I think Zach won right around even par. So it could be a little tougher out there scoring wise. I say that, and somebody's going to go shoot 63 tomorrow,
right?
But because these guys are good, right?
Sure.
But there is Augusta has the ability, I think, with the weather, to really dial this one up if they choose to.
BT, Real Golf Radio, of course, you can hear it every Saturday right here on the KSL Sports Zone. Mountain America Credit Union, Mountain Land Supply, Black Desert Resorts, Hoops Vision, and Uinta Golf, all major sponsors of you guys and the radio show that you guys have been doing for so long now. We appreciate it, BT. Have fun down there.
Oh.
And, let us know if we could do anything for you out there, brother.
Hey, you know what? Getting to talk golf with you guys a few times a year is a treat, and I appreciate you having me on.
There you go.
Thanks, Brian. You're the best.
BT. Man. The thing about Brian Taylor is it doesn't get old for BT. It doesn't get old for Bob. You know what I mean?
Why would it? That's their passion.
Because
they love golf.
we are in the business of people
They love
being,
golf, and they're great at their craft.
I know, it just is, but it's different because you and I love sports, and we've covered a lot of sports, but even then sometimes it's like, gosh, I got to get on this freaking plane and go to the Super Bowl.
Come on.
It happens a little bit. There's a little bit of that.
It's work.
I know, but and it is work for these guys.
I
too.
get
They're
there. I get
too.
there, and I trust me. I do that. It's like if I complain for 1 second about being here, I suck.
No, for sure.
Because people get mad at me if I did that. So
but
I don't.
We work with we know people in this business. Not necessarily in this building, but I mean people who you see people at different events, and you're like, this freaking guy.
They want the teams they cover to lose, so they have to do less.
This freaking guy coming in with the dark cloud over him. Come on, man.
Seriously.
All right. We'll take a break. We will come back. We have a Would You Rather right around the corner. No. Yeah, we do have a Would You Rather. Yeah. It's Wednesday, right? Let's do it. We'll come back. We've got more. Stay with us, 97.5 VKSL Sports Zone.